Hello, everybody. My name is Lidia Bañuelos, and today I'm going to explain the main concepts of this subject, individual factors on learning. Along this subject, I saw and I learned that there are a lot of factors that influence the second language learning process. Some of these theories and investigations that I saw helped me to understand the learning process of my students. So please come with me and join this review of some of the topics we saw along this subject. Let's start. The aim of the subject is the study of the learner's individual factors or differences of the second language acquisition process. These factors influencing individual learner differences in language learning. Some of them can cognitive, affective, and physical and psychological. We saw, for example, the cognitive influences on language learning refers to the mental conditions, strategies, or processes in the learning of a foreign language, and includes 4 factors. For example, the factor of the intelligence, the aptitude, the cognitive style, and the learning strategies. Okay. For example, we saw the intelligence factor according to Gardner about the multiple intelligences. Okay, logical, mathematic, linguistic, spatial, musical, bodily, kinesthetic, interpersonal, interpersonal, naturalistic, and spiritual. Okay, his work has been more influential in making theories about the nature of intelligence. The intelligence factor is, some people think that persons speaking a second language are very intelligent persons. Persons have the ability to learn a second language. So it means that learn a second language is easier for some persons than others. Some people have genetical information that indicates they are good at learning languages. Other persons are good at math or science, but it doesn't mean that they are most intelligent people in the world. Intelligence is a positive factor in the acquisition of a second language, but it doesn't determine the level of proficiency on the second language acquisition. According to Gardner, the multiple intelligence is natural, that loves animals, plants, and nature, and, for example, kinesthetic, excels in performing sports, physical activities, and body movements. It could be, the person could be actor or be an athlete. Okay, the logical intelligence is excels in math and logical thinking. Interpersonal intelligence is the ability to understand one's inner feelings and have self-realization and to know about oneself. Okay, the interpersonal is the ability to organize people, group activities, and social relationships. The musical intelligence is excels in performing and composing musical pieces. The visual spatial is the excellence in shapes, designs, graphics, and visualization. For example, a designer or an engineer. The linguistic intelligence excels in words, languages, poetry. For example, poets and writers. Okay, this is according to Gardner. Then the factor of aptitude, the language aptitude. refers to natural innate abilities are part of the innate genetical information too. Some children start to talk faster than others, or some of them speak their mother tongue before the kindergarten. Same thing happens with aptitude. Every person has their own talents and the natural ability to learn languages, thus aptitude is related to the intelligence. It doesn't mean that a person who has aptitude on a second language acquisition is considered the most intelligent person. Aptitude is connected with variables as motivation, cognitive style, use of strategies, memory, etc. Now, another factor is the cognitive style. Cognitive style refers to the manner in which learner perceives, monitors, conceptualizes, and recalls linguistic information. Cognitive style by Brown is classified in reflective impulsive thinking, broad narrow categorizing, skeletonizing, broadening, belief congruence contradiction. The cognitive style by Ellis is classified in field dependent and field independent. The field dependent, the person field dependent, and global, holistic, deductive, focus on meaning, while field independent is particular, analytic, and inductive, focus on form. The cognitive style, according to Reed, classifies persons as visual, the learning as visual, the cognitive style as visual, auditory, tactile, and kinesthetic. The cognitive style by Willing, classified in concrete learners, analytical learners, communicative learners, and authority-oriented learners. Now we're going to talk about the learning strategies. Learning strategies are the particular approaches or techniques that learners employ to try to learn a second language. The characteristic of learning strategies are: they contribute to the communicative competence, allow learners to become more self-directed and autonomous, expand the role for teachers are tools to solve a problem or specific actions to take on board the learner, involve many aspects of the learner, are not always observable, can be taught, are flexible, and influenced by factors like degree or awareness, task requirements, age, sex, nationality, ethnicity, personality, motivation, label, etc. are present in all learners. Those are the characteristics of the learning strategies. The classification of learning strategies are direct, indirect, cognitive, metacognitive, social linguistic, not linguistic, communicative, analytic, gestalt, compensation, retrieval. Learners make use of different types of strategies simultaneously. About language learning strategies, okay? We're talking about that. Every student is different from the other learner. Learner characteristics are differences between students. These differences influence the students' attitude towards learning a language and also how they learn. Learning strategies help the learners to learn and help us as teachers to help our students not just to learn a second language, but to acquire and discover abilities. I'm sorry, a T is missing here. I'm sorry. Learning strategies help us to teach, but it is also true that learners possess their own set of strategies system. It means that we need to observe our students. We need to spend time to observe how students learn better. Okay. we need to observe those strategies and identify the strategies or the system of strategies that fit better to one student than another. We talked too about the affective influences on language learning. Affective influences refers to the effects of the emotions and feelings on the learner in the task of a second language learning. We refer to affective influences like attitude and motivation. What is motivation, according to Garner? Is the most important factor for success in language learning. It is more important than specific ability in languages. Okay, we're going to talk about the psychological theories of motivation, some of them, okay? The motivation of learning theory, okay, this type of motivation is affected by several variables such as the teacher, the subject, the student's personality, and group dynamics. Can be intrinsic and extrinsic. Was developed by Garner. The need of achievement theory is the attempt to keep our own abilities at the highest possible degree in all those activities where a norm of excellence seems to be necessary. Was developed by McClelland. Okay, the attribution theory studies the different ways people attribute causes to events that influences their behavior. Was developed by Eder. We saw, and now I'm going to present the types of motivation in language learning by Gardner and Lambert. We saw the extrinsic motivation derived from external resources, that it means that it comes out of the learner. For example, when the learner is motivated to do an activity in order to gain an external reward in return, or when the learner gets good grades studying a second language to obtain a tablet or a new video game. Intrinsic motivation comes from internal sources, when the learner reflects the urge to engage in a learned activity for its own sake. For example, when a learner is motivated to do an activity because it is fun, is enjoyable, and satisfying, her or him goal comes from within. Integrative motivation reflects a sincere personal interest in the people and culture presented by other group, means a desire to identify oneself with the L2 community. For example, when a learner is interested in other cultural groups and wants to make contact with speakers of other languages, or wants to be a member of a target language community. Instrumental motivation refers to practical considerations, and it is connected with the advantages that the learners of a foreign language can give the learner. For example, when a learner is motivated to learn a second language because it opens up educational and economic opportunities for him or her. We saw the global motivation, situational motivation, and task motivation. Global motivation refers to the overall orientation of the learner towards the learning of a foreign language. Situational motivation is more concerned with the learning context, the classroom, the total environment. And the task motivation is related to the way a learner approaches a specific task in the classroom. The motivation, according to Garner, is the effort plus setting and decide to achieve goals plus attitudes. This is a motivation according to Garner. We also saw the socio-educational model of education. We saw the components, the social middle, the environment where the learner is situated and where attitudes and motivation were formed. Individual differences, those factors within individuals which will determine their level of achievement. For example, intelligence, language aptitude, the motivation, and the situational anxiety. Then the second language, the second language acquisition context, an extension of drawn between the formal language and training and informal language experience. Outcomes can be linguistic, like the competence in the use of the second language, or not linguistic, like attitudes. Okay, and we saw this. Okay, the socio-educational model of education. It could be taken for the success of the institution. Okay, those components take care of a group, and all the group, the institution. We also saw the physical and psychological factors influencing language learning. We saw those factors were age and personality. And in personality, we saw the extroversion, introversion, tolerance to ambiguity, anxiety, and inhibition. Let me explain you more about them. The physical and psychological factors influencing language learning and age. As conclusions, we saw the age does not influence the route of acquisition, although it does affect the rate of acquisition. Age. Children are not per se better language learners than adults. Adolescents seem to be the best language learners in comparison with young children and adults. Children seem to master pronunciation skills much better than adults. Adults have a clearer idea than children of language as a formal system, and grammar is easier for adults than for children. There are a lot of investigation about this, and they continue research about this factor, the age, because nothing of this is a statement. Okay, some of these characteristics are present in the learners, but for example, the age doesn't determines that the young learners learn faster than the old learners, for example. Talking about personality, we saw the extroversion and introversion. Some characteristics of the extroverts: research by socializing, make decisions quickly, speak more, outgoing, easily distracted, action-oriented, gregarious and expressive, excellent communicators, and enjoying being the center of attention. But not always extroverts. Students are better students than the introverts. Okay, introverts, the characteristics are research and by spending time alone, reflect more, making decisions, listen more, enjoy one-on-one conversations, introspective, self-aware, think before acting, learn through observation, and more sociable with people they know. Same as extroverts. Introverts, it doesn't mean that a person that is introvert, it could be a better student and a better learner, okay? Talking about the tolerance of ambiguity, these are the characteristics for those persons: are willing to take risk and open to change, show endurance on tasks and higher levels of achievement, should perform well in new complex situations, feels free to entertain a number of innovative and creative possibilities, and not to be cognitively or affectively disturbed by uncertainty. We took about the initiative too. And foreign language anxiety is the feeling of unease, worry, nervousness, and apprehension experience when learning or using a second or foreign language. Some individuals are more predisposed to anxiety than others and may feel anxious in a wide variety of situations. And this is a factor. Uh, it could be negative for students, the anxiety. It could be, no, it could be, it is a negative factor for in the process of the learning, of learning. As conclusions today about this subject, okay, and I'm going to open this. The conclusions for this subject. All factors in along this subject are valid and important, but it doesn't mean that I can apply some changes according to the situation in the classroom to form great students and good learners. Okay. As a teacher, I can take these strategies. I can learn about all of these researchers and all of these investigations, and I can take it. I can take it to understand better my students. Good language learners not always have an excellent pronunciation or get the best grades. Good language learners are the students that are involved in all the language learning process. Students that keep on practicing continuously accept that they are able to deal with the effective demands on learning a second language. Good students are interested on the topics and want to learn more. Good students are able to help others to learn. Those are some of the concepts or the main concepts that I saw along this subject. And let me show you the references of this job. And just to say thanks to you, Professor, because I didn't know a lot of strategies like this. I ever thought that my students, children, just learn English because they have an integrated chip, right? and it was very satisfactory for me to know that some of these strategies that we saw in this subject let me learn as teacher. Let me know that that my children are, or that my students are different, that a person or a child or a kid that is introvert or is introvert or extrovert, I need to watch and observe them, not just in my class. I need to see them in other situations at school, right? As a teacher, my job is not just in my class. My job continues along their stay in the school. If I saw one of my child in the recess, I need to observe him or her, how they socialized, and how is he or her with the others? How is it is very important as a teacher to focus on my students' characteristics and apply all that I learned in this subject. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.